Welcome to this explainer. Look, if scrolling through your professional feed lately feels like staring into a bottomless abyss of AI anxiety, yeah, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to tackle a massive transformation that honestly every modern professional needs to make right now. We're shifting your mindset away from that reactive, fear-based AI panic, where everyone is just scrambling to protect their own jobs, and we're moving toward a purposeful, empowered stance of organizational agency. The goal here is simple, but it is totally profound. Replace that defensive, crouching view of AI with a practical identity. By the end of our time together today, you aren't just going to be an AI user. You're going to understand exactly how to help your organization learn, choose, and change responsibly. Okay, let's just dive right in and confront the elephant in the room, the very real anxiety, the total fatalism surrounding AI at work. Everywhere we look, we're bombarded with these alarming messages about what this tech means for our futures. And frankly, it is exhausting. It's completely exhausting to constantly worry about being replaced. But to build real capability, we have to start by unpacking that fear. We need to distinguish between what is just an exaggerated, hyped-up assumption and what's a legitimate, actionable concern.
You've likely heard these alarms sounding across almost every industry, and it's incredibly easy to just feel paralyzed by the whole thing. One day you're worrying about outright job displacement, literally losing your professional identity. The next day, it's the creepy rise of automated surveillance, judging your every keystroke. And then there are the massive institutional risks weighing on us, right? Things like biased decision-making or the accidental exposure of highly confidential information. Oh, and let's not forget a really common, super stressful reality for a lot of folks, the immense pressure to use these shiny new tools with absolutely zero formal training. So here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. Listen to this. Fear is just information. That's it. It provides valid data that actually helps us separate legitimate concern from the wild industry hype. But, and this is a big but, we absolutely cannot let it drive our organizational strategy. Responsible awareness means we acknowledge the risks without giving in to the doom and gloom. We literally take emotion out of the driver's seat and replace it with a structured, highly informed approach. To really get this, think about the difference between AI proofing and organizational agency. AI proofing? That's basically a defensive crouch. It's a personal survival strategy where you're hyper-focused on individual tools, just trying to optimize your own daily tasks so you don't get left behind in the dust. But the massive danger there is that it often just automates a broken process. It hides real risks behind polished, AI-generated output. Organizational agency, on the other hand, is a collective mindset. It's totally focused on shared purpose and outcomes. It means examining the process deeply before automating a single thing and making risks and accountability completely visible to everyone. This is exactly where we want to be.
To actually build this agency, you need to step up and act as a change agent. And look, a real change agent doesn't just blindly promote AI everywhere. Instead, they help the organization ask much better questions. It's a 5-step process. First, you start by framing the exact outcome you're actually trying to improve. Once you know that, you connect with the people who truly understand and will be affected by the work. Then, you demand evidence by testing what supports the proposal. From there, you protect the whole process by setting rock-solid boundaries that preserve safety and trust. And finally, you learn from what the experiment revealed, even if it completely failed. Honestly, especially if it failed.
And that brings us to the Aura AI framework. This framework perfectly maps out how we turn that initial awareness into governed, sustainable action. It flows beautifully through 4 stages: aware, understand, refine, and apply. But I want you to remember a really critical insight here. Learning can and honestly often should move backward. If you hit the refine stage and realize, wait, we need to go back to understand because a bunch of new evidence just popped up, that is not a failure. Returning to an earlier stage based on new data is literally the definition of responsible adaptation.
Let's look at the data here through a quick tale of 2 organizations. In case A, you had a leader who just mandated a 25% productivity increase using an AI assistant, purely out of sheer urgency. And the result? Complete disaster. No baseline was measured, employees just improvised without any real training, accountability totally vanished, and trust absolutely plummeted because people started hiding their AI use. Now, contrast that with case B. They didn't just broadly target AI adoption. No. They targeted a specific, painful problem: slow access to approved policy information. They established a clear baseline, they required bounded human review, and they safely tested everything within strict environments. Case B actually learned before it scaled.
So why did Case B work so beautifully? Because it was deeply rooted in responsible change. They started with a clearly defined organizational outcome, not some frantic competitive fear. They deliberately brought in the affected and accountable groups rather than just having leaders dictate from the top down to end users. And they relied on actual evidence, like workload metrics and user feedback, rather than vague, hyped-up productivity claims. See, when things don't work out in a defensive adoption scenario, it's usually viewed as this embarrassing failure. But under responsible change, it's just highly valuable information that you use to adapt and refine the process.
Now, what's really interesting here is that to execute this kind of responsible change, we've got to look past the shiny technology and look directly at the human impact. We have to map both value and risk directly through the people who are actually affected by the system. Before you deploy any AI solution, you have to look across the entire workflow. You need to identify every single person who performs the work, who receives the output, who governs the rules, who supports the IT, or who's ultimately evaluated by the final product. Once you've got those groups identified, you've got to interrogate the impact. Really dig into it. For every single stakeholder group, ask yourselves 4 key things. First, who exactly is involved? Second, what's the meaningful improvement or benefit they might actually experience? Third, and this is crucial, what is the potential harm? Like what could be lost or made less fair for, say, a junior employee who's just trying to learn the ropes? And lastly, voice. How does this specific group get to participate in the design, the testing, and the review of this tool? If they're affected by it, they absolutely 100% need a voice in it.
But as an effective change agent, you also must intimately know your boundaries. Look, your influence is incredibly real and valuable. You have the power to learn, to document process problems, to identify all those stakeholders we just talked about, and to propose bounded experiments. But please never confuse that influence with formal authority. Actually purchasing software, changing official organizational policy, using protected data, or deploying live production systems, all of that requires explicit coordination and approval. Think of it this way. Influence proposes the path. Authority actually paves it.
When it comes time to formalize your initiative, say in an AI charter, you want to completely avoid a tool-led approach. Saying something like, "I'm going to help my department adopt ChatGPT," is way too narrow. It basically assumes adoption is the answer before you even know what the question is. Instead, your charter needs to be outcome-led. It should sound more like, "I will help reduce the time required to locate approved policy information while preserving accuracy and accountability." The tool itself might support the outcome, sure, but it should never define your entire purpose.
By defining these 8 specific areas in your one-page AI change agent charter, you create a real blueprint. You clarify the exact outcome you want in the people affected. You outline your unique contribution and how you're going to maintain trust through strict, non-negotiable boundaries. Finally, it demands evidence. It clarifies what learning needs to happen before you take action, and, this is my absolute favorite part, it sets explicit pause conditions. These are the exact scenarios that require you to stop and reconsider the technology entirely. So draft this for clarity and responsibility, and don't worry about making it perfect.
After drafting your charter, it's essential to return to your own readiness baseline. Take a real moment of self-reflection here. Ask yourself, what exactly changed in my understanding today? What areas of my responsibility still feel a little fuzzy or unclear? Because progress isn't just about feeling more confident, it's about developing a much more precise understanding of your own uncertainty. Pinpoint exactly what you still need to investigate and figure out who you need to speak with before moving forward to that understand stage. Ultimately, what you should take away from this explainer is a brand new professional identity, which is perfectly captured right here. You are not here merely to use AI to speed up your emails or optimize some singular little task. No, you are the catalyst for responsible organizational evolution. You are here to help your organization learn, choose, and change responsibly. So the question I'm going to leave you with today is this. Now that you understand the crucial difference between hiding behind AI proofing and stepping up with true organizational agency, which path are you going to choose to lead?